All right. As I said last week, for the sales clubs that I do on Wednesdays, typically the last month of the year, December, I always do barriers to success and traits of happy people. Next week, as I said, we'll do goal setting for 2026 and how to write a mission statement. And today, the reason I do this session on traits of happy people is just to kind of get us thinking about are we, really working to be happy or just hope that it happens organically. So today's session is going to give you 16 different tips on, being a happy person. So start 26 with the goal of being better and happier, either an employee or a person or a salesperson. 16. Happiness is a behavior. It's really not a mindset. So, what I mean by that is don't confuse hope with a plan. I just hope things work out. I just hope things happen so I'm happy. Successful people know that they are responsible for their own happiness, nobody else. So, happiness is really a big precursor to success. It creates motivation, faster problem solving, increases the level of intuition, helps you live longer. Think about this: optimistic people outperform negative people by 56%. And doctors who are in good moods give 19% quicker diagnosis than other people. Now, I want you to apply that last statistic to us because I always think that we, as salespeople, that we're doctors. Because don't we diagnose a problem that somebody has? Don't we diagnose the pain that they have and then offer our product as a cure? So the whole reason I do this training really wraps around this one slide, that if we're happier people as salespeople, we're going to do a better job of diagnosing problems and challenges for clients. So that's why I really think about, are we really doing anything to really control our unhappiness? And this is a sad thing to think about. The mean age of depression in 2007 was 20 years of age. The mean age of depression today is 14 and a half. Society is taking the toll on our unhappiness. Antidepressant use has increased significantly. And this one I got from Rochelle Carrington, my accountability partner. Children laugh an average of 300 times a day, adults only seven. Now, when I challenged her, and I go, oh my God, come on, 300 times. She says, yeah, but think about it. Kids are laughing at everything. Kids are play. A physical therapist, a PT working with kids, it's all about play. It's what they do, that their job is to play. And as adults, we laugh only seven times. So the saying I have is, we are born ecstatic and we grow to be miserable because we allow all the negativity in society to bring us down and bring us depressed. But we don't, it's funny, we'll take antidepressant medication, but we won't take things to do to be happier. So the question is, how do we intentionally create happiness and sustain it? Or how do we overcome society's definition or the negativism that life is hard and then you die, or life is a bowl of cherries and all those negative things about it? So I want you to think about this. 50% of happiness really is gene based. 40% is activity based. Are you doing the behaviors? Are you doing the activities that make you happy? And only 10% of happiness is circumstance based, where a lot of people will put it the other way around. A lot of people will think that, well, my happiness is based on the circumstances and I'm a victim of circumstances. And it's not, I don't have that in control. You got really, 50% of your happiness is really under your control. Your genetic makeup does determine some of your baseline, your happiness baselines. But do you really think about the activities that give you joy? What people produce joy and energy in you when you're around them? So create your own chemical cocktail. Feelings and emotions are a result of chemical reactions. Okay. So reactions, they release these hormones that regulate our feelings. So here's a couple of tips I want to give you. As far as your endorsements, remember endorphins. Endorphins are natural painkillers that create feelings of euphoria and well being. So, aerobic exercise, eat spicy food. If you're in a bad mood and you're going to go out for lunch, go to a Mexican restaurant, go to an Indian restaurant, go somewhere where you can have spicy food. It gets those endorphins released. Smell lavender or vanilla. So, when you go to the car wash and they offer you, new car scent or what scent you would want for your car, get lavender or vanilla. It helps to release those endorphins. Eat ginseng, chocolate. I'm sure nobody's going to really argue with me on that one. That's a good one for everybody. And then think about it, laugh daily. Are you doing things to increase that laughter? Are you, when you're driving, and a lot of salespeople we all know we have windshield time as salespeople are driving around. Are you listening to talk radio? Are we listening to the negative things that bring us down? Or are you listening to a comedy station? Are you listening to comedy albums? Are you thinking about those kind of things? So I would recommend that you listen to things that make you laugh instead of things that depress you.
Wayne.
Serotonin. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a client here in Fort Collins who does a laughter yoga class, and her company is called Laughter Synergy, and it is the best. I mean, you can't get out of there without belly laughing the
Good
whole
for
time.
you.
I don't know if you guys, when you were kids, ever played the game Ha, where you lay your head on your friend's stomach and and you have a bunch of people and everybody has their head on everybody else's stomach and you lay down and the first person says ha, and then the other person's head kind of goes like that, and then the next person says ha ha, and then by the third person everybody is just belly laughing. So that is
Those,
something. So if you're in
the thing that would
town,
make me laugh would be the goat yoga. That would make me laugh. I've seen that one.
that is pretty funny. I've done goat yoga before, but like I said, this laughter yoga is it's the best thing. You can't get out of there without
But isn't
laughing.
isn't that a sad statement though? The kids laugh 300 times a day, and adults 4 to 7.
Yeah.
We don't really think about that, but we all know right now. You're all realizing that yes, laughter can make you feel better. So think about doing things to make you laugh throughout the day. Serotonin regulates your mood, prevents depression, and reduces irritation. So make sure you spend time out in the sun. Intentionally think about things that make you happy. The other thing, as far as food, what makes you happy, milk and corn, because they have serotonin in them. Obviously, low intensity aerobic workout. So, when I put these things up here, and I've done this a couple, I guess I've been doing this for 10 years now that I do this in December. I get some people that respond back and say, I'm a naturally happy person, but I never ever thought of creating on a daily basis. I have to-do list, but on my to-do list, I don't put what can I do today to make me happy or what can I do today to make me laugh. That should be one of your to-do list items when you're doing your to-do list every day. Dopamine measures those hormones that really work on goal setting, monthly goals. There's a feeling of achievement is what happens when you do daily, weekly, monthly, even hourly goals, set exercise goals. For example, I've been doing really great lately. I'm bicycling on a stationary bike 10 miles a day. I'm taking my dogs for each longer walks, each time up to 2 miles. So I'm doing 2 miles of walking and 10 miles of biking every day. And I feel so great, not necessarily after I've walked or biked, but because I achieved the goal that I set out. So that releases the dopamine. And then obviously these things that you want, those of you that, like massages or touch, I mean, that's the kinesthetic people are typically kinesthetic people are touchy feely people. And kinesthetic people statistically are happier than visual or auditory people. So, if you haven't done it, try scheduling, monthly massage envy, massage therapy, that kind of thing. Obviously, we said this last when we talked about pair success, but associate with happy people. Increase your happiness by spending at least 1 hour a day with other happy people and reduce time with those unhappy people, those people that bring you down, suck the energy out of you. Because our bodies really are made of love and water. Those are the things that we need to survive. So analyze that inner circle that you have. Who do you have that really you admire and respect and want to be around? And who is it that brings you down? Do you really even think about it and say, okay, what can I do to limit my time with that co-worker, neighbor, friend? I have one neighbor, Ron, who's just, I've never seen him down. I love spending time with him. I have another neighbor that every time we walk by, she complains about something in the HOA, complains about something in the neighborhood. Why? Obviously, there's a choice. Who am I going to spend time with? Although these things seem obvious, it's like a lot of things. Until we write them down, we don't follow a systematic attempt or a plan. So write down, as far as your to-do list each day, what is it you're going to do that makes you happy? What is it you're going to, hey, today when I go out to lunch, I'm going David Sandler had a line in his book, You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride the Bicycle. He said, never eat lunch alone. You're going to eat lunch anyway. So why eat it alone? So always have it as maybe a prospect, even just somebody you want advice from, somebody you want, but always make sure it's somebody that you will enjoy spending that time with. Right. Create a quest of happiness. Come and promise yourself certain things, like, what you can do. Do you want to meditate? Do you want to do cheerful expressions? What is it that you want to do as far as your to-do list to help keep you happy? Because going back to this number one of 16 of all the 16 things is successful people are happy, and they build a happiness cookbook. They build part of their systematic approach to something, a recipe, a cookbook, a recipe for success. So they do things consciously instead of just, as the first slide said, hope. It's just hoping that they have a happy day. They consciously do things, and they laugh and they learn a lot. So again, number one was, we spent a lot of time on it, but number 16 of the 16 things as we go backwards on the list is have a quest for happiness, because successful people do a much better job of diagnosing what might be wrong with a prospect or a client than unhappy. Okay. Happy people also avoid procrastination. Okay. Unhappy people, I should do this, but they never get around to it. They're they'll get around to it kind of people. But procrastination comes from not having a process. Successful people have a system to get to work on time, to complete tasks on time, and they're organized. They understand the pay time versus no pay time schedule. So let me explain that to some of you who are new and don't really understand the pay time versus no pay time. Pay time during the day is when your customers are available. That's pay time. So you should be doing pay time activities. No pay time activities are done otherwise. So one of the things that used to frustrate me as a manager, and might some of you as managers also, I'd walk through the office and 10 o'clock during the day, somebody's doing their expense report. That is a no pay time activity, because instead of spending that half hour putting their expense report together, they should be doing prospecting, cold calling, even training, something that has something to do with really working with their clients, where they can do their expense report during lunch or before work or after work. When your clients are available, you should be doing pay time activities. And that makes happy people happy, because they know they're spending their time effectively. Where unhappy people have this guilt feeling about, I had to get my expense report done. Yeah, I did it during business hours. And so it perpetuates this procrastination of not doing things they should be doing. So when we talk about pay time versus no pay time, that's exactly what it is. Okay. Tunnel vision. Do you wear blinders, or are you a happy person has peripheral vision and looks at issues from another person's point of view? Obviously, there's a lot of political discord across the country, different opinions and stuff. But do you take the time to really think about that other person's point of view, even though it might not be the same as yours? But happy people take the time to try and understand why somebody might think differently about them. Happy people see things objectively. Unhappy people do not see reality as is, but they see it as they have their own perception of what they want reality to be. They don't see things objectively. So are you that type of person where you're constantly only thinking about reality as you perceive it, or are you thinking about how somebody might otherwise perceive reality? Happy people don't say, I don't have enough time. The one thing we all have in common, every one of you on the call, Deborah, Janelle, and Jane, and the Fines, you all have the same amount of time. Nobody here has got any more time than anybody else. It's what you do to choose to do with that time, how you choose to spend that time. I hear people say all the time, well, I'd like to have more time to read. You have plenty of time to read. You just choose to do something else, and you're not organized. So it goes back to the procrastination. If you procrastinate because you don't have a systematic plan, especially things like making your prospecting calls or doing your prospecting letters because you didn't put it in there and say, I'm specifically on Thursday, 7:30, going to do prospecting calls. I'm not going to let anything else distract me. I'm going to get that done. Or do you sit there and say, well, I'll do my prospecting when I get around to it. If I have time at the end of the day, I'll do these negative things. You've maybe some of you've heard the phrase eat the frog. If the worst thing you had to do today was eat a frog, when would you do it? Most people that are successful people would do it right away and get it done with. Where unsuccessful people think, oh, I'll put it off, I'll put it off. And now they're going throughout the day with this stress of I've got to do this unpleasant task. And it creates this unhappiness throughout the day. So again, unhappy people are constantly saying things they don't have enough time. That means you don't have a good understanding of the concept of time. There is a beginning and end to everything. Nothing is forever. So just do whatever it is needs to be done to get it over is really the easiest way. So I want you to think about any tasks that you have to do. And this is part of the training that I do. One slide from my time management. Everything you do should basically, when you handle a project or a task, you either delete it, you delegate it, or you do it. You know, some of you that are early, if you did time management classes before, one thing says, if you pick up a piece of paper in your inbox or whatever it is, don't read it, put it down, do something with it. Either delegate it to somebody else, delete it, it's done, goes in the round circular file in the corner of your office, the garbage can, or you do it right now. And that's the mantra that happy people follow. I do it, I delegate it, or I delete it. I've also said this to some of you that we talked about this before. In your outbox, let's say you use Outlook Mail, wherever you have all your different emails. When we all have a delete file automatically, comes automatically in your email that you delete it. But do you have one file that you can send something to when you read an email? Oh, I got to delegate that to Janelle, or I'm going to have someone else do it. Or do I put it in a file and it's a to-do file? And maybe it's something you don't do right away, but you go back to that file and get it done later in the day. So every time you get it, your emails box should be empty by the end of every day because they should go into one of these. So your inbox should be empty because it either was deleted, you delegated, or you did it right away. So let me do the stamp collecting. Unsuccessful people collect emotional stamps. Okay. It's kind of like a rewards program. We've talked about this under one of my other trainings, but again, unsuccessful people, it's like if you go to McDonald's and you scan the QR code that you have as a reward member, you collect rewards. And I have like 1,400 points in my rewards program. But most people, they don't cash them in as soon as they collect them. They hold them until they get a lot, and then they cash them in all at once. Well, this is what unsuccessful people do. They collect emotional stamps on somebody else. They don't say anything about it. They don't, and then all of a sudden they just cash in all the chips they collected all at once. And that's what unsuccessful people do. They hold these chips and they're not honest with their true feelings and bring them up right away until they get really big. And then they blow it up on somebody or somebody blows them up on you. So unsuccessful people collect emotional stamps on other people and then wait until they have enough of them collected to make a big argument, and then they cash them on all at once. So they have problem owning up to their own feelings. Customers save stamps on us and then they cash them in on you. They might have collected stamps from another salesperson. It might be like they got 4 sales calls today and they were polite to the first 4 salespeople. Oh, I'm busy and I'm not interested. And then you call, and now what they do is oh my God, I'm sick of you salespeople. I hate salespeople. They're taking the stamps they collected from somebody else and they're cashing them in on you. Do you ever do that? Where you with a spouse, with a friend, that you hold back on what you really feel and then cash in all these stamps at once all the time. So again, don't do stamp collecting. Dependence on others. Unsuccessful people are always looking for motivation, support, and approval from someone else. They really have difficulty working alone and being self-contained. I've had salespeople come up to me as I've finished doing a boot camp training at their office, and as I'm going back to my car, somebody comes up and says, "Wayne, let me tell you what's really around here. My sales manager doesn't motivate me." And I think, well, why are you waiting for your sales manager to motivate you? Shouldn't you be self-motivated? Shouldn't you be motivated to get the check that you can go home and take care of your family financially? Why do you need somebody else to motivate you? Now, if you get a boss that motivates you, and that's great, but one shouldn't expect it. If you're dependent on others, all right, you're probably going to be unsuccessful, unhappy at the same time. Happy people don't need approval and they don't fear rejection. Unsuccessful people need to seek approval and acceptance, and they don't see their employment as a profession, which really is just designed to help one go to the bank and get your financial needs met. They get mixed up and they use their job or employment as a place to get their personal approval and satisfaction. So the idea is that maybe even there's some salespeople that they need their prospect or their client to tell them how great they were. Oh man, you're the greatest salesperson in the world. You're so nice. Appreciate that. You know, if you need the approval, if you need to have the approval, you're probably going to be unhappy because some people just don't readily express and give you approval. They think, hey, you're the salesperson. You were supposed to do this for me. They don't come back and give you these wonderful strokes. And so, are you the type person needs strokes? You need somebody telling you how great you are, how wonderful you are. If you get them, it's great, but you shouldn't need them or fear of rejection. And quickly, I'm going to deviate a little bit on this fear of rejection. Some of you have heard me do this session. I have a whole white paper I've written. I have a window here in my office. Do I have to pay anybody a lot of money to wash this window? Squirt, squirt, wipe, wipe. No, I don't have to pay more than minimum wage because in our society, we don't get paid on our value to society. Otherwise, teachers, firemen, and policemen would get paid more than NFL football players. We get paid on our ability to do the job that others can't do or won't do. And Ryan, as much as I would love to have been an NFL football player and have PFF grade me, I didn't have the ability. I didn't have the desire. I didn't have the ability. All right. So we get paid on our ability to do a job that others can't do or won't do. And others can't be NFL football players. That's why they can make so much money. But do I have to pay somebody more than minimum wage to wash windows on the outside of the Willis Tower in downtown Chicago? And most people, well, yeah, of course, because of the risk. Right. Can you do that job 102 stories outside the Willis Tower? It's the same job as washing the windows right here in my office. Squirt, squirt, wipe, wipe. But why do we pay those people? By the way, they get paid $160 an hour to wash windows. The guys that go up on those windmills, the wind turbines, and change the light bulbs up there get paid $600 an hour to climb those towers and go up to there because they will do a job that others can't do or won't do, and that is handle the fear of falling, the fear of heights. So that's what they get paid for. They get paid to do something to others. It's not that I can't wash windows, it's that I won't do it because of the risk. Well, that's what happens in sales. We can make so much money in sales because we will take the risk of being rejected that other people won't do. And so once you overcome that fear of rejection and realize they're not rejecting you, they're just rejecting perhaps your solution to maybe their problem, that they didn't think that the solution they could afford it or that it was effective enough. If you take it personal, if you take rejection in sales personal, you'll struggle and you'll be unhappy all the time. Where happy salespeople, it doesn't bother, it goes right over their head. If somebody rejects them, you know what? But most salespeople need approval from their prospects and they fear rejection because they don't have enough people in their pipeline. If you were a millionaire and you were doing your job just because it's fun to do, would you care about rejection? So again, happy people, they don't need approval. They don't fear rejection. Happy people play full out. We talked about that last week about my star sergeant at Fort Rucker, Alabama, is that they play full out. Once they commit to something, they are totally committed to it and they put everything into it. They don't do it halfway. So unhappy people, they try something, they don't get a success, they didn't give it a full 100% effort, but now they're unhappy because deep down subconsciously they realize that they didn't play full out. So they're unhappy with their own performance. And sometimes they don't acknowledge it, outwardly, but internally it makes them unhappy. Happy people don't allow a mediocre standard of performance from themselves or people around them. Okay. Yeah, people that, again, going back to eight, that are unhappy and are doing things only halfway are unhappy, but are you allowing other people around you to do things halfway and that they don't have high standards? If so, get rid of them. There's enough negative influence already out there. So going back to the previous one we talked about, associate only with success oriented people. Just because somebody else failed and make have the bar so low that it makes you be able to achieve and do so much better, don't hang around those people that have low bars of standards of performance. Happy people seek support. Happy people admit to themselves that they're not experts, that they need help. And Janelle, you know that from me reaching out to you yesterday, that the area that I need help from you, where, know how to successfully ask for help. Find someone who's paid the price. Find someone who can offer you success and advice. And you must feel good about yourself, secure enough that, hey, maybe I don't have the talent in this area to seek help. Where unsuccessful people think they can do it on their own, they'll figure it out on their own, and they don't look for help. There's nothing wrong for asking for help, reaching out to me. Hey, Wayne, I've been watching your classes. They're great, but I struggle with cold calling. I struggle with this. Successful people don't have a problem calling me up, no matter how successful or how much money they made or how good they are already. It tends to be the top 20% of the producers that I work with are the ones that spend 80% of time with me, where the bottom of the barrel salespeople don't tend to call me up. So it obviously fits in this right now here. Go ahead and seek support. Join a masterminds group. Work with an accountability partner. Happy people are also assertive. They're not aggressive. They assert their rights in a calm, meaningful manner. They're not aggressive, and know the difference. Kind of an aggressive person might be the type of person who fills a stamp book. We talked about earlier, stamp collecting, and then cashes in their stamps all at once. Where an assertive person acts kind of like a third party. They get their message across without playing corporate games, power plays, trying to diminish somebody else's value, not doing prickly strokes. And prickly strokes sound like, yeah, you're okay for a sales trainer. Was that a stroke? Was that a positive? Was it negative? Or, gee, most people your size don't look good in black, but that looks good on you. So is that really, that's the difference between being assertive and aggressive. That's an aggressive statement. Assertive people don't play those games. They don't try and make themselves better than somebody else. It's called the okay, not okay principle. Most people would like to feel okay about themselves, and unsuccessful people do that by making somebody less okay, by being aggressive towards them. So know the difference. Happy people are effective decision makers. They can make a decision. There is a process to making decisions, and it's amazing how many people can't make a decision. Being an effective decision maker helps one eliminate miscommunications with others. So, think about your process. How the last time you made a major decision, how did you go about it? Just recognize how you typically do it. Some people hey, it's a good decision. I just make a decision. I live with it. Other people are, no, I gather all the information. I do the Ben Franklin close on myself, which is the pros and cons. I really analyze it. And once I've done, and I look at my column, whatever column's got the more pros than the negatives, I'll go that way. Understand how you make decisions. And if you're working with a spouse or a partner, make sure that partner or your spouse knows how you go about making decisions, because otherwise they get frustrated if their methodology is different from yours. And I'll give you an example. As one of my previous clients, when I did the full upfront contract with them about, hey, let's do this. When we get done, it's either yes or no, or a clearly defined next step. Can we agree to that? That would either, if it's a no, there's no the sense of you don't want to hire me. I'm okay with that. If it's a yes, that's great. But when we get done, if it's not a yes or no, let's at least make sure that we schedule another appointment. Would that make sense? And he agreed to the upfront contract. When we got to the end, he said, well, I need to think this over. And I said, well, help me understand. What do you need to think over? What's the process you're going to go through? He says, well, me and my partner, we're 50% partners in this IT business. And we have a rule. If I'm still excited about doing something 6 months later, then we'll move forward. because I tend to make decisions too quickly, just a impulse buyer kind of guy. But so any major decision we have to do like this, like hiring you, I have to sit on it for 6 months. And so I said, so when I call you June 1st, in the 6 months from now, you'll be able to move forward or not move forward. And he said, yes, that's how I make decisions in our company. Respecting this is great. I'm going to put in my calendar, call you 6 months from now at 10 o'clock. You're on June 1st. It's going to be either yes, this makes sense or doesn't, right? I called him. He said, yep, we're ready to go. Because I understood how he makes decisions. And if I tried to push him any harder, would that have, now again, I want you to understand that out of every sales opportunity, you want a yes, a no, or a clearly defined next step. And to think it over without a clearly defined next step is not what I'm asking for. I allowed that guy to think it over. So think it overs are okay as long as you have a clearly defined next step as to how long they're going to think it over and what you're going to do. What's not acceptable is, yeah, I need to think it over. Call me in a month or two. That's wimping out. Say, I'll call you. Great. If that's what your process is, but help understand what your decision making process, because the way you make decisions might be somebody different than somebody else. I might be the type of person where, yes, I gather all my information, but once I have it, I make a decision. It's either yes or no, and I move forward. Other people don't make decisions the way you do, but happy people, at least they can make a decision and they know what their systematic approach is. And by the way, any of you have taken the DISC profile on the DISC profile, I think it's page 3 at the bottom of it. It actually analyzes how you make decisions. It talks based on your DISC profile. D's can make a decision. They're quick to make a decision. I's make a decision based on a lot of info from other people. S's make a decision based on security and stability, and C's make a decision based on the facts and figures, and they're very logical. So again, think about how you make decisions so that you can move on when it is a bit difficult decision you have to make. The if only model. Are you constantly saying if only, which is, again, it's a form of excess baggage, holding on to things and not letting them go. Happy people know which F is important. Let me explain what I mean by that. The most important if is if I would only take responsibility for actions, then I would understand that sometimes results will be unfavorable. But in the long run, I'll be better off. I'll be in control. My confidence, self-esteem will grow. My knowledge will expand. I will gain new courage, and I'll be looked upon as a true professional. Or is it the if in externalized? If somebody else would only do this, if something else would happen, are they externalized excuses which you don't have any control over? If the economy was only better, if more people would want my product or service, you can't control that. So are you the if person who internalizes the if or externalizes it? For example, I had somebody said, hey, if only we had a better and lower price product, I could sell that. Where's that if? Okay, as opposed to if only I would develop and follow a structured prospecting plan, I would have enough prospects to sell what I have. Again, which way do you look at things? Now, some of you probably are saying right now you look at it the bottom one of these two, but I bet somebody who looks at the other way, where they're always the if is externalized, or like this: if only there wasn't so much traffic, I could get to work on time. I actually had, when I was doing a customer service training for a company, this was one of the employees, great employee, but the manager was always frustrated because this person didn't show up on time, constantly late. And that was, well, it's not my fault, it's the traffic. Instead of saying, if I would only get up earlier to avoid the rush hour traffic. Happy people look at what they have control over as opposed to things that they have no control over. If only my customers were nicer, instead of saying, if only I would learn softening skills to better communicate with my customers. Is your if externalized or internalized? Okay. Number 2, unfinished business or excess baggage. Again, unhappy people are always going back in time and bringing it into present. They spend a lot of time with baggage and unfinished business, where happy people don't spend time in the negative. So those of you who've been with me for a while, you understand I interject stories sometimes because I believe that we remember stories more than we do statistics. So October 3rd, 1992, I was fired by Jerry Lewis when I was working for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And I understand older reference lost on younger people don't even know who Jerry Lewis is, but Jerry fired me. And when I would go on other job interviews, people say, so why'd you leave your last job? Well, the SSBag, Jerry's a jerk. He was on Percocet. He was a drug addict. I was carrying this SX baggage and I wasn't getting any job offers. As soon as I stopped carrying that extra bag, he said, well, we had a difference of opinion that just didn't work out. Great organization, fantastic. Uh, then I started getting more interviews and job offers. You got to let go of some of this excess baggage sometimes. Unsuccessful people go back in time and they start, we used to do it this way, or even in a company, for example, or, well, we used to have a company policy that did this. The company policies change. Things are different today. Bosses have changed, whatever. Are you going back in time or are you moving forward? Happy people move forward. All right. And again, number one is happy and successful people avoid corporate games and power plays at work. No one's really game free, but recognize the psychological games and get out of the way of these power plays. And they're most evident in sales where people are playing games with you and they're not being honest, true about their true feelings. And if somebody else is doing that and they're playing games, just don't get sucked into it and you play those games too. So I want to talk to solutions and power plays. Establish strong relationships with people and upfront contracts. When you're going to meet with somebody, make sure you say, hey, what do you want on a today's meeting? Would this be a great meeting if we can't do this? What is it that you want? Have a healthy self concept about what you are bringing to your company and understand that risk and failure are always a part of growing and experiencing new things. So have the don't play these games with people. And I think I don't have to explain it more than some of you know what's going on. There's people in your company right now that play games. Define these power plays. Remember, are we doing prickly strokes or backhanded strokes? Are they techniques to get people to do what they don't want to do sometimes, but with negative or snotty kind of attitudes with things like that? I want to move ahead to Cartman's triangle. Anybody raise your hand if you've ever heard of Cartman's triangle before? Nobody? Okay. So Cartman's triangle is it's a sociological program. Basically says that in all relationships, there are really three positions and three roles that we play. We're either the persecutor, the rescuer, or the victim. And what it says, like the victim is that, oh, poor me. The victim feels victimized, oppressed, helpless, hopeless, powerless, ashamed. And basically the victim is thinking oh, woe was me. It's not my fault. I'm the victim. All right. And there's always a prosecutor or a rescuer who's working with the victim. The rescuer is a person that says, let me help, a classic enabler. The rescuer feels guilty if they don't go to the rescue. Yet it's kind of like when I've done a training and somebody asks me a question and they can't frame the question correctly and somebody interrupts them and rephrases the question. That person is usually a firstborn, by the way. Firstborns in sibling relationships usually are rescuers. They want to rescue and everybody else. Where the youngest child, the baby's usually the victim, and the middle child is somewhere in the middle. All right. So the rescuer, the persecutor, it's all your fault. They're blaming somebody else. They're critical. They're oppressive. They're angry. They're really the type of person I can think. I bet every one of you is thinking right now. Now we can change. These scripts can change. What I mean by that is the persecutor is something hurtful to somebody else in a power play without permission, such as creating guilt or discomfort or pain. Persecutor always externalizes. Okay. A victim receives the persecutor's actions and looks for a victimized role. They always externalize also. It's not my fault. This persecutor's put me in this position. I'm a victim of circumstances. The rescuer is always looking for somebody to rescue, sometimes without being asked, with being asked, but sometimes without being asked. But mostly they're doing it automatically. All right. They always externalize also. The rules of the game are that everyone keeps moving around the triangle while constantly changing roles. Our objective is to get out of these games. Use your dummy curve. I'm not sure I understand. You're nurturing, you're reversing, you're up for a contract to stay out of one of these roles where either you're the rescuer, victim, or persecutor in a relationship with other people. At all costs, discounting must be avoided, meaning as far as discounting somebody else's feelings, just try and stay out of one of those roles. They might be in one of those roles. You don't have to be in one of the opposite roles. So I kind of some extra credit here. We're going to talk about again. Happy people are not afraid to fail. Unsuccessful employees have an unbelievable fear of failure, which is a double negative. You fear it, so it creates it, makes it happen again. So failure is an option. Successful people realize and learn from their failure. I'm just curious, anybody seen this one before? I've done this. What do these people have in common? Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, Michael Jordan, Churchill, Edison, Beethoven, even Colonel Sanders from KFC. Anybody know what they all have in common?
They all failed once.
More than once. They were all miserable failures. Yeah, Deborah. Abraham Lincoln, most people don't know, he started his law business, but he lost more elections than he ever won. He lost more elections than he won. And when he won the presidency, there was like 18 people running on different policies. He won even as the first for presidency with a less than 30% of the vote nationwide. Grant, he failed in business 3 times in Elizabeth, Illinois, along the Illinois River, up in Joe Davis County, where his family had a general store. When he ran that, he ran him into bankruptcy 3 different times. The only thing he ever was successful at was working in the Army, but he became the 18th president. Michael Jordan, most people know this, that he was cut from his ninth grade team. They've heard that, but they forget he also talks about that he had like 87 game winning shots, but he had over 100 and some game losing shots where he had the game winning shot at the end and he missed it. So he actually failed more times than he succeeded. I get a kick out of this, one of my favorite ones. Edison failed at the light bulb actually 999 times before they got it right. Now, it wasn't him up in the attic of his house, that had this big warehouse in New Jersey where he had different teams working on things. How would you like to bet on that team working on the light bulb that failed 999 times? I can see myself being the guy to go up to him and say, hey, can I be transferred to that phonograph division? Can I work on that thing over there? But they failed 909 before they got the filament right. Okay. Sanders, KFC. Now he was he was a fraternity brother, not at the same age with me, but he was in the same Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity that I was. And we always talked about that. He failed as a steamboat pilot. He ran the Julie Bell Swain, a steamboat on a barge in the Mississippi and got it stuck. He failed as an insurance salesman, a railroad fireman, the guy that throws the logs into the burner. He failed as a farmer. All right, went bankrupt before starting KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, at 65 years of age. Now, most people, he sold KFC for $20 million to PepsiCo. Most people thought he was crazy for doing that it wasn't enough money. But actually, one of the smart things that he did was he sold the U.S. rights to PepsiCo for KFC. He still maintained the Canadian rights to the KFC franchises up there. He made more money in Canada with KFC than he ever made in the United States. But he never became a smart business guy until he was 65. Walt Disney, obviously we know Disney created Disney World, Mickey Mouse, but he failed in the first business in Kansas City. His brother and him had a business called Laugh-O-Gram. And what they would do was like a telegram, but this is part of the happiness index. You could send somebody a Laugh-O-Gram where they'd go to somebody's house, knock on the door, and deliver a joke to them. Kind of a funny idea, but it failed miserably. Okay. Matter of fact, some people know the other story where he submitted his first drawing of Mickey Mouse to an art company, and they sent him back a letter that he had no talent. I thought that was funny. Steven Spielberg, obviously the director, he was a high school dropout. His first film had a budget of $500, was shown at his local cinema, and it generated a profit of only $1. So just think about this as far as when speaking with a customer. I want you to make sure you never say don't, won't, can't, because they eliminate options. Okay. Happy people don't use these words. Don't. They slip right there. When somebody says, oh, you don't want to do that, or I won't do that, I can't do that, it eliminates options. What I want you to do is do things like, suppose I said that'd be difficult for me to do. Suppose I said it'd be difficult for me to give a 10% discount, but I could do 5. Whereas if you say, oh, I can't do that, oh, I won't do that, you've immediately eliminated options. And that makes somebody else unhappy that you immediately discounted their ask even. So be careful about using those kind of words. Again, suppose I said it'd be difficult for us to do that. Is there other options? Interesting. May I make a suggestion? All right. Again, you're judged more by the questions that you ask than the answers you give. So are you asking the right questions? Ask more questions using that softening, good question. Glad you asked. Repeat. Why do we charge so much? Boy, if we charge as much, yet we're still successful. Why do you think that is? See how much more nurturing that is? And that'll make you happier because you're doing it in a controlled manner. Stroke, repeat, reverse for clarity. All right. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Gave you a lot of tips. We're recording this session so you can go back. Again, my whole idea on the session today is give you some tips that you will think about. Number one, how to be a happier person, that you take control of it instead of just hope that it happens organically. What are you doing to create an environment? What behaviors are you doing to actually be a happier person? Because as a happier person, you'll be a better and a more effective salesperson. Obviously, you'll be a better person in life and better partner to your spouse or your coworkers. But again, what are you thinking about doing as far as taking control of your own happiness instead of just thinking that you're a victim of circumstances? So go back to that first slide where we talked about 50% of your happiness is, yes, genetic based, is that just part of you, but 40% is on the behaviors. Are you doing things to actually control your happiness? And only 10% of your happiness is circumstance based. You have a lot of control of your happiness, and be conscious of it as we start 2026. And again, the best tip I can give you as you do your to-do list today, the last thing you should always put in your to-do list is what you're going to do to laugh more today. Got it? Comments, questions, thoughts, anything from anybody?
Wayne had a comment from just some feedback from one of the other sessions that we did. I think it was around managing expectations, and I think there was a YouTube video on it too. Um, had a renewal that came up this week or the last week, and had a two or three calls, and kind of used some of the tips and tricks, I get more tactics that you had laid out. And I mean, it's worked a few times recently, but
What
do you mind?
anything specific? Any tip that you would not have applied before that you did now?
I think it was, do you mind sharing with me what it's going to take to fix the solution? And it's doing that up front has been a game changer to setting an expectation for what pricing is going to be before delivering pricing, and then getting some good results on the back end once they actually receive the quote. So that's been really helpful.
Well, you sell a high ticket item typically a lot more than some of the other people on the call, correct? Isn't your, being somebody, I mean, you can't divulge sometimes the price. I understand that, but yours isn't kind of like a small ticket item. It's a big, big price that people buy your product or service at PFF.
Yeah, and that can be a tougher to digest sometimes if you haven't had that conversation up front.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, it doesn't matter what you charge. What matters what somebody expects to pay to have a solution to their problem. So when we talk about a high ticket item or even any product that you have that might be difficult for somebody to get their arms around or get their mind around of the price, it always comes back to did you get enough pain? Because if the pain is great, the people will find the money to fix it. But if you didn't spend any time talking about the pain, then it's really hard to manage their expectation about price. So that's why we talk about having a systematic approach, because you can't talk price until you've really talked about pain. And then I love the line you use. Yeah, are you willing to share with me what you think it's going to take to fix this problem, or what are your thoughts? Because the clients do. So appreciate you volunteering that. I hope that helps a little bit too for the other people. It's always good to share with somebody. Appreciate that. Good. Glad to hear. Yeah, I got a note from Brian that you guys are using the tactics and they're working well. Tricks is okay to say that word. I know you might have hesitate. It's a tactic, but sometimes we look at it as we think that salespeople come up with tricks to, again, tricks are okay as long as they're used for good, not evil. That's just what I mean. I mean, some people think sales tricks are to get somebody to buy something they don't need or want. Tactics are more designed to get people to realize that they need this. So I guess it's okay. The line I use, somebody said to me, don't you think your sales tricks that you're teaching us are manipulative? And my answer was, well, I have a dog who's worth $30,000, a hunting dog. It's trained that well. Puppies go for $1,500 a piece. So yeah, the dog's worth about $30,000. If Keeper's running across the street and going to get hit by a car, but I yell treat because that word stops her in her tracks and she runs back. But I don't really have a treat. I just yelled treat to get her to stop. Was I manipulative? Yes, I was, but for good, not evil. Same thing in sales. As long as you're using your techniques for good to leave that client in a position better than when you met with them to begin with, then I don't think there's anything wrong with using tricks or tactics, if you will. Is that fair? Anybody else comments on what we just talked about or anything else? All right. So summary, what's happening next week? Next week, we're going to go into goal setting. Goals are important because they point you in the right direction. So we're going to reinforce that. I'm going to give you an exercise that you'll follow to be able to give you the words you need to write a mission statement for your personal. It doesn't have to be company. I would like if some of you have it. If you haven't, go review or ask if your company has a mission statement. Mission statements typically are about the customer. You know, our mission is to create a great customer experience, offer low price, da, 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 da. But if you think about it there should be two mission statements. There should be a mission statement about, yes, the people that you serve. But if I'm your boss, aren't you the people that I serve? So the mission statements on a lot of companies there should be two separate mission statements. One about what you do for your customers, but one about, our mission is to create a stable environment, a healthy work environment, to offer long-term security and stability to our employees. Something like that, so that you always can look back and say about any major decision we made, how does it fit within our mission statement? That's the purpose of a mission statement, to help guide you through difficult times or difficult decisions. And again, if you don't have a mission statement personally, that's what next week's about. Hopefully your company has a mission statement, but if you haven't reviewed it, I bet the mission statement has something to do with what your mission is for your customers. But what about the employees? Is there a mission statement about what the company is doing to create long-term wealth or security for the employees, or what is it about? So have those ready to talk about next week. In the meantime, if anybody's got any other questions, I appreciate those of you who have called and say, hey, Wayne, I need some one-on-one time. Always makes me feel good that people do want my advice and expertise. So I appreciate that. All right, questions, anything? All right, we're done. Have a good one, guys. Thank you very much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.